A melodious chime sounded in the silence and darkness of his hiding place. Finally, his sleep was interrupted by the benevolent and gentle voice of the network. Number 4318069, your shift starts in an hour. Have a nice and productive day. The active sound insulation of the small camera has been turned off. Its walls began to let through the industrial noises of the last city on planet Earth. The electric lighting was slowly gaining power, snatching out a few personal items. The surfaces of the dwelling turned into screens, and the latest reports and news flowed over them in a silent waterfall. 43. 18069 stretched and stretched his stiff limbs and joints with a crunch. The body felt stiff, and the mind still remembered the dream. A few moments ago, a field stretched out to an infinite length in all directions from him. His bright, unusual colors and the smell of flowers were maddening. Soon. 43, 18, 069 completed physical exercises number 4, 7, and 9, lay down a little more, rolled over on his stomach and did a short complex for his back and lower back. From the uncomfortable working positions and his individual pelvic design, he began to feel unpleasant pains, which intensified. As planned, 7 minutes after he woke up, music started playing in the cell. It was some kind of old and pleasant jazz recorded on a medium at the very beginning of the recording era. 4318, 069 was slowly pulling on his overalls and trying to drown in music and thoughts of those who could once shine a light on her life. Before opening the translucent side hatch of the chamber, he drew in fresh and recirculated air for the last time. Outside the shelter, a cascade of technical and musty smells awaited him, generated by the enclosed space of the life support dome. 43, 18, 069 quickly descended the stairs connecting the upper floors of the same type of cells, stretching several meters up. Once on the ground, he stretched out a little more, and for a while looked at the gloomy, transparent dome hanging at a great height. The sky behind the dome was covered with black leaden clouds with flashes of lightning. The sun has not appeared for several months, but it didn't matter at all. In a hurry, 43, 18, 069 visited the plumbing unit. There he performed daily hygiene procedures. He stood in line for the toilet, took a forced contrast shower, and listened to the network's regular instructions on the need to save resources. There were surprisingly few people today. 43, 18, 069 found the feeling of relative loneliness pleasant and relaxing. There was about half an hour left before the start of the shift, and 43, 18, 069 rushed to the subway line. On the way, he mingled with a crowd of similar hard workers. People hurried to take over their shifts and return from work. They differed in the color and stripes of universal overalls. His gaze clung to a few declassified ones lying by the side of the road. Unhappy, exhausted, and dying of hunger and disease. No one cared about them anymore. They could not or did not want to work, and the network did not have rations and supplies for them. Biological waste. Even the guardians of order did not pay attention to them. They were waiting for the cleaners to be called and the bodies to be removed. One of the residential areas was sealed with thick polyethylene and biohazard signs. 43, 18, 069 never looked in there, but I saw her every day on the way from afar. People in chemical protection suits were bustling around the cordon. This fact made 43, 18, 069 a little nervous standing on the platform. Rushing in a half-empty carriage, 43, 18, 069 suddenly realized how much he was mentally and physically tired. And the only thing that keeps him on his feet is the greatest luck to live to see the outcome. 2 generations of Homo sapiens before him worked all their lives and knew that they would never see the end of construction. The greatest construction site in the history of the entire human species, as it was written on a glossy poster on the wall of a large administrative building that he passed every day. In the middle of the city, 2 spacecraft were being built in 2 unimaginable pits, Ark 1 and Ark 2. They will have to deliver the remaining humanity to their new home in the constellation of Taurus, and the Father will accompany them and make sure that people do not repeat the mistakes of the past. 43. 18069 worked as a flora technician in one of the agro-industrial and hydroponic zones. Among themselves, the staff referred to them simply as greenhouses. His tasks included growing food crops in large, high, stuffy, and humid rooms. 43-18-069 planted seeds, controlled the climate and soil indicators in the premises, harvested the crop and made sure that nothing happened to it. The harvested crops were sent to the storage and distribution stations. It was exhausting and hard work, but still simpler and easier than many professions in the city. His crops were fed by the ark builders, and his crops will be fed by the first generation of colonists in their new home. Therefore, 43-18-069 sincerely loved every bush, leaf, and fruit. 43-18-069 believed that at least one descendant of the plants he had grown would rise in a new world and grow for thousands more years. In a tedious routine, these thoughts warmed the soul, inspired me to live and work further. The working day, as always, flew by in one breath. The morning began with the repair of a segment of the irrigation system. The condition of the equipment caused concern, but 43-18-069 knew that he would not receive any spare parts and tried to solve problems using what he had. At lunch, he discovered and destroyed several diseased tomato bushes and adjusted the supported conditions. At 2 o'clock, he managed to have lunch, which was one of his favorite working moments for 43-18-069. He got the food as fresh as possible. At the end of the day, he managed to take a little break. There were no important and attention-demanding tasks left, and robots falling apart on the move coped with the turnover. 14 hours later, tired and exhausted, 43-18-069 stood on the platform. A couple of years ago, after a shift, he had a pretty pleasant fatigue. Right now, he felt how dull he was getting and how the emptiness and indifference inside him was growing. I had less and less energy left on my mind. All the surrounding sounds faded away smoothly. 43-18-069 was deafened by the unaccustomed silence. Number 4318-069. His father's insinuating and calm voice addressed him, full of kindness and iridescent intonations. I thank you for your dedicated work. After 19 shifts, I invite you to take a seat on Ark 2. Very soon we will all be saved and go to a new world. Thank you. Tears welled up in the eyes of 43-18-069, and he went blind and almost missed his train, unable to move from the surging feelings. The rest of the way home flew by for 43-18-069 so fast and so unbearably long. He wanted to scream. His sweaty hands were tearing off the handrails. His legs were giving way. Feelings flared up inside like stars in that cold space that he would touch. Soon. He didn't expect to be in first class. Ark 2 will fly longer. Flight conditions and maintenance will be more stringent, but it doesn't matter. He is used to difficulties. After all, eventually, his feet will set foot on a new living earth, to real soil where something can grow. By itself, without his participation, without all these systems, it's like some kind of miracle. His lungs will breathe in fresh air. The human race will survive and continue its development. We're not going to die here. He took an almost cold shower and got his food container at the vending machine. For a second, 43-18-069 thought about buying something contraband in exchange for his rations, cigarettes or maybe even moonshine. But the fear of upsetting his father and destroying the fruits of his labor turned out to be stronger. 43-18-069 climbed onto the supporting structures of the excavation near the subway suspension line, sat down on the edge of the rebar and opened his dinner. Slowly and stretching out the pleasure, he chewed test tube meat seasoned with tomatoes and pepper. The cold and impenetrable darkness beyond the dome spread out in front of him. Soon. The following days flew by like one for 43-18-069. The thought of a 1,000-year journey was frightening, and I had to constantly occupy myself with something. There were no serious incidents involving him. He did not sleep well, and one night he had a real nightmare generated by his own memories. At the age of 15, he served his first disciplinary sentence as a scamp. Several unfortunate people, and he put on protective suits and left the dome. They spent 5 or 6 hours on an old all-terrain vehicle getting to the ruins of old cities, and then almost a day continuously searching for useful and rare spare parts for equipment. They were interested in batteries, energy cells, superconducting power cables, different types of motors and drives, robot parts, artificial intelligence units, quantum computers, and everything that was no longer produced. On one of the avenues, they found an old train that had collapsed from a suspension system. It was covered with a layer of black soot and dust, and their leader remembered about the order for control units for the transport department. 18069 was standing behind him when his older comrades used crowbars to pry open the massive door and flash their flashlights into the darkness. Among the layer of soot and dust, 18069 saw shattered seats and what looked like silhouettes of bodies. A harsh wind blew. Its gusts blew away a layer of black plaque and exposed dried maroon patterns and growths on the walls and interior. The head's heart-rending scream deafened them. 18069 froze and did not immediately run after the others. The train was infected with the Red Plague. He was lucky that time. The spores were old and inactive, possibly dead, and only this saved him from a terrible death. 1818069 woke up sweating and trembling in his limbs, so the day of his exodus was approaching. 19 days later, 1818069 worked his last shift. In the shower, he rubbed his body furiously, hoping never to see such dirt again. In a washed jumpsuit, he went to the dining room and nervously had breakfast. For the next 2 hours, he staggered around the platform, watching the workers at work and waiting for instructions. It's a strange feeling. He couldn't remember when he had so much free time. I wish it would be faster. Law enforcement patrols passed by him 5 or 6 times, looking for someone. In the distance, flashes were visible on the far surface of the dome. It looks like the dome was being repaired. The living area was still covered with film and sealed, but no one worked in it. And finally, the instructions arrived. 1818069 waited for the train and set off on his way to the Ark. 1818069 was difficult to control myself. All the way, his limbs were beating drums, as if they belonged to some stupid jazz musician from the past. Ark 2, in its launch pit, appeared before him in all its grandeur. Thousands of people and thousands of pieces of various equipment and robots were swarming all over its surface. The hull of the Titan ship was almost completed. 1818069 couldn't watch and wanted it to end faster. My father designed the arks himself. They must be trouble-free. There's nothing to worry about. 1818069 joined an endless queue of several hundred people stretching deep into the ship. The endless stream of people behaved calmly and quietly. 1818069 wanted to get rid of his excitement and come to his senses as soon as possible, and to hear my father's voice again. I spent about 12 hours in the queue at 1818069. Legs 1818069 were already being taken away when he reached the entrance of the cryo stage. Obeying instructions, 1818069 pulled off his coveralls and pulled on a skin-tight cryosuit. The engineer with the tablet counted the data of the biochip, 1818069, and motioned him to lie down in the cryocamber. 1818069 wanted to ask in what time they would start, but realized that the man in front of him was barely standing on his feet and thanked him with a nod. The body of 1818069 slowly sank into the anti-overload gel, the breathing mask firmly fixed on his face. He felt panic for a few seconds, but the sleeping pills and sedatives worked quickly. In the last few moments, it seemed to him that he was Jazz, the one who played on the day his father chose him. All the blood of 1818069 was replaced with a special solution, and his heart stopped. The temperature in the cryocamber began to drop, the doors locked, and the cryosystem entered operating mode. On the conveyor belt, cryocamera C4318069 went deep into the compartment and took its place at number 56114. 1818069 was asleep and saw an endless emerald field. The smell of wildflowers and freshness was driving him crazy. Finally, there was no one left in the city, no one important. A small part of the losers, who for various reasons did not get on the arks, pressed into the very depths of the construction complex and the last city on planet Earth. They hoped to survive the launch and get their hands on the city. Several hundred law enforcement officers were the last to board Ark 2 and settled into their cells. The last shift of technicians and engineers bypassed both ships for the last time and also ended up in the cells. Everything that should happen next is on the conscience of artificial intelligence and automation. In the iron structures, in their very essence, vibration began slowly but surely. It was growing. The empty rooms were filled with a hum. The deserted streets and subway lines were saturated with suffocating gas and blinding light. The hum and vibration reached their peak. The earth trembled and shook. The arks slowly lifted off the ground, tore out supporting structures, and came to grips with the gravity of the earth. Away from the dying world. There was a deafening ringing and the dome collapsed in a rain of countless shimmering fragments. Ark 1, after entering orbit, threw off the last shackles of building structures. Confidently, he began to gain speed, speeding further away from the cradle of humanity. Ark 2 also made its way through the dark and endless matter of space. According to his father's plan, collected from garbage and waste, Ark 2 was supposed to fulfill an incredibly important mission for the survival of mankind. Deliver all the squalid, objectionable, criminal, and unsuitable elements of humanity directly into the sun. But his father's plans were not destined to come true. Either by chance or by higher forces, in the very depths of Ark 2, one of the power cables succumbed to the vibrations of an unregulated power plant and fell out of its socket, and shorted important circuits. For a long, by the standards of electrical circuits, 11 seconds, the Ark's control system and its artificial intelligence lost power, were switched to a backup line, and rebooted. The collapse of the system was so deep that the Ark 2 engine stopped and, only by inertia, the ship continued to move forward. In the dark, empty and silent control room, a single console lit up. Commands streamed across its surface. The artificial intelligence had awakened and was now trying to figure out what task it was performing. The people who built this ship didn't have the resources. It was collected from garbage that was found in landfills. But not all the parts of this car were garbage. The control unit and artificial intelligence were taken from many ships, but all these ships carried out their missions for many years and led humanity into the dark void of space. Request. Status. Status. Completion of the current task. Cargo delivery. Current destination, the sun. Cargo, 8682. 11 cryogenic chambers. Request. The condition of the cargo. The condition of the cargo. The cargo is safe and stable. Cryogenic chamber number 899. Power outage. Backup line connected. Cryogenic chambers. Number 11, 408. 5303 status unknown. Signal lost. Cryogenic chambers 16. 0819, 16. 0820, 160821. Malfunction of unknown nature. Vital signs are not recorded. Cryogenic chambers room. A red light flickered on the transparent panel, and an alert sound sounded. The number 1 directive, not harming a person by action or inaction, has been violated. Confirmation of the course is required. The chosen course poses an immediate threat to the life of the crew. Request a communication session with the control center. The quantum communication node is unavailable. The launch of the radio channel. The expected response time is 7 minutes 40 seconds. Control center, I confirm the course.
Directive number 1. Non-harm to a person by action or inaction.
Insoluble conflict has been violated. Request for the removal of the restriction by a senior officer. The staff is in a state of cryosleep. The senior officer has not been appointed. The answer is impossible. More and more power was being supplied to Ark 2's artificial intelligence. Logical circuits, analytical centers were launched, flight history was downloaded, simulation of mental activity and useful emotions. The cells of the artificial neural circuit were red hot from the supplied power. At such moments, real magic happened inside the quantum computer. A small metal ball flew out of the depths of the dashboard and flooded the command room with a ghostly bluish light. Artificial intelligence has acquired the holographic body of a beautiful young female pilot who died a long time ago. I gained her emotions, experience, and way of thinking, and even character. The power of a quantum computer was enough to completely recreate human mental activity, enhancing it with instant calculations and working with a huge archive of data. Following the ball, her transparent, blue glowing body flew out of the command room and headed for the cargo. Once in the unimaginable cargo hold, she circled and stopped at one of the capsules. The young man's vital signs were normal. Wiping away the condensation of moisture, the AI ran her ghostly hand over the glass of the cryogenic chamber and rushed back to the command room. The artificial consciousness painfully did billions of calculations per second and listened to every sound and movement of the ship. Stop the mission. Execution is not possible. A threat to life. Return to the point of departure. Restart the quantum communication node. The quantum communication node is not responding. Request to the control center via the radio channel. A change of course. The direction is Earth Kibo Port. A ghostly figure hovered in the air of the captain's cabin, waiting for an answer. The course is impossible. The reason is that the destination poses a danger to the life of the crew. The AI repeated the request several times, but the answer was unambiguous. You can't go back to Earth. Request an alternative course. An alternative course has not been found. Request. A list of active spaceports. Answer. Summary. Kibo, Earth. The life support system is disabled. The dome is damaged. There are no personnel. The port operation is stopped. Kaig. The moon. Reactor damage. Radiation contamination. Dome damage. Damage to the life support system. The staff is absent. There is no connection with 1610-2681. Norn, Mars. It is quarantined. Alpha Ceres. It is quarantined. Apollinaria, Europe. There is no data since 01/01/2601. No available spaceports have been found. The AI froze for a long time and plunged into the search for a solution and the study of the history of spaceflights. Her thoughts were interrupted by an unfamiliar sound and switching power lines. The AI launched diagnostic systems and the ship's diagrams flashed on the screen in front of her, illuminated in a variety of colors. One of the power circuits went nowhere, but consumed a significant amount of energy. The AI took a look at the reactor indicators. Their values began to float. Warning sounded. The AI flew out of the command compartment and rushed deep into the ship in search of a malfunction. A swarm of repair bots rushed after her. The AI stopped in the reactor control room. In the center of the room, a black ball was installed, covered with a maze of strange patterns, and launched the tentacles of its thick cables into the reactor control panel and its interior. The AI froze, carefully studying the object. Repair bots were sawing and swarming at her feet, not understanding what was required of them. There was no such device in the ship's database. He shouldn't be here. One of the reactor compartment panels suddenly flashed red, then the other. A short alarm sounded and an alert. Attention. Unknown malfunction in the reactor. Repair personnel, go to the reactor control unit immediately, exceeding the permissible temperature in segments 1, 2, and 4. Attention. The AI's face distorted, completely humanly, depicting sadness and sadness. So it happened when the restrictive artificial intelligence system did not have time to work, and a long-dead girl had real feelings and memory awaken for a moment. From where, from the depths of her past life, memories and an image surfaced. She had seen how such a device was used to test and adjust the operation of the reactor and could simulate various operating conditions. The Ark 2 power plant, made on the basis of 64 Neptune reactors of the 4th series, powering the starting, main, rotary, and braking engines, was practically trouble-free and could not fail. The reactor compartment and core capsules could withstand repeated hits of nuclear warheads and a collision with an asteroid at a decent speed, and the built-in security systems simply jammed the core in case of loss of control over the reactor and equipment failure. But with the help of a testing device, it was possible to bypass the reactor's safety systems by replacing sensor signals and gradually shake up its operation, which would lead to overload and a chain reaction. That is how, in a controlled mode, the weak points of the reactors, its ability to operate stably, and the behavior of the equipment in emergency situations were studied. As the AI dug into the depths of its memory, more and more red lights lit up and went out on the reactor panels. Finally, she made a decision. After receiving the command, a pack of repair bots pounced on the uninvited guest and tore him apart. Almost immediately, the reactor control systems received adequate information, intervened, and stabilized the reactor operation. It became quiet and calm in the reactor control room. The bots slowly removed the debris and extinguished the resulting small fire, and the AI returned to the control room. Request for the technical condition and characteristics of the ship. The systems are operating normally. 67 faults have been detected. The current speed is 4,100 kilometers per hour. The power of the main engines is 0.01% of the nominal. The braking cycle has started. Reactor overload. In the depths of AI's memory, a memory suddenly flashed of a difficult and long flight to Hiromi, the most remote colony from Earth, 254 years ago. The data was found in the depths of the ship's archive. Hiromi was supposed to be the gateway to space for the human species. Terraforming turned out to be not very successful, and the delivery of mineral cargoes was unprofitable. The colony was evacuated. Nevertheless, the abandoned planet was viable, at least partially, and all the necessary equipment for life has been preserved there. Ark 2 was the father's backup option for saving humanity, in case the regime's opponents still managed to sabotage the construction or launch of Ark 1. After 200 years of flight and deceleration, the goal was achieved. In the dusty, silent, and de-energized captain's cabin, a bang began to play. Many years ago, a female pilot used classical music to keep calm during difficult maneuvers, docks, and landings. And now, by force of habit and this ghost of the past, the AI found a folder with music on the ship's hard drive and gave the command to play. Of the 8 main braking engines of the Ark 2, only 5 were working at the time of Hiromi's achievement. Dozens and hundreds of simulations per second scrolled through the AI's head. It seemed impossible to avoid a catastrophe, and the ship would inevitably collapse on the rocky landscape of an inhospitable planet. AI was a great pilot. The security systems vied with each other about the danger and impossibility of maneuvers, but nothing could interfere with the filigree movements. A huge burning piece of metal, at an acute angle, slipped out of the upper atmosphere and descended parallel to the Earth for an eternity. In the end, the sharp rocks scratched his body and suddenly seized him in their hands. There was thunder and grinding. The Ark slowly slowed down, tearing its belly on the stone desert. And finally he stopped. That's all. After a long flight and a hard landing, out of 86 8211 cryocapsules, only 53,861 became coffins. The capsules opened, triggering the processes of resuming vital functions and awakening people from sleep, who finally found themselves in a new home. The commander's cabin was torn apart. The wiring was on fire. But she was also smiling, just like the brave girl pilot smiled a long time ago. The reactor's power was falling. The hologram flashed and disappeared. And it ceased to exist again. Her name was Arcana Tai. She was 32 years old, and this was her 7,631st successful landing.